After a weekend sweep at home for the Sixers, we get a nice and easy Monday mailbag here on the PHLY Sixers Podcast. Welcome to the show live from the Xfinity Lounge, along with Derek, Kyle. I'm Devon Bree, president of Basketball Ops, hanging out with you and all of you good people there in the chat. We appreciate you all hanging out with us. We will talk about so much here on the show today with the mailbag questions. We'll get into a little bit with Joel a little bit later. And
the birthday boy.
Some news and notes that we have to get into. I think that's going to be a long conversation with the news and notes. So we'll maybe do that, start that a little bit earlier than usual with the news and notes. We'll have that for you later. But yes, the birthday boy, Joel Embiid, is he playing this week on this road trip? We will find out. But in order for him to play and for them to have some success in the playoffs, get there, whether it's the play-in or the top six, and they're just automatically in
right now. Playoffs. Playoffs.
He needs to be on the floor for them to do any kind of damage in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So that's where we'll begin with our first mailbag question of the afternoon as we talk about the top four seeds and the matchups and the Sixers once they get there and what it will in fact look like. E. Ross says, by the way, news and notes, I'm swept up in this tornado. Everybody, be careful.
Stay safe out there.
Stay safe. Get home safely. If you got to take a little bit of time, if you're stuck at work and you feel like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't brave this at this moment, be careful, everybody, as we get ready for this impending tornado in Philadelphia. What are we doing here?
The one benefit we have up here is we don't have natural disasters.
Exactly.
Can't take that away from me.
Can't take that away. All right, you got it. But all right, let's get to the mailbag question. Start off with question number one here from Hedva, friend to the show. If you could pick with a healthy Sixers team, or the top four seeds in the East from most favorable to least favorable, as far as matchup, tempo, style, et cetera, there for the mailbag question. So, Derek, what do you have for this first question?
It's a good question. There's still a part of me, and I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. At one point during this run, I want to beat the Boston Celtics. That doesn't mean it's most favorable matchup. Not in a long shot, like especially with Nick Nurse's defensive schemes, you could just see them launching like 75 threes and making 30 of them in a game and completely blowing you out. But I would love to just slay that giant, and they're not the giant because Tatum is still playing well, playing probably better than I expected, not at the height of his powers, and obviously they had to make some sacrifices in terms of shipping people off to trim their luxury tax bill. I think they got all the way under it, didn't they? Anyway, they shed a lot of salary in the offseason.
Let's not talk about the luxury tax anymore, at least for right now. Another day.
All I'm saying is they lost some talent from last year. I would still love to beat them once. Now, in terms of who's the most favorable, I think the Knicks are probably like the most flawed, even though their strength in terms of rebounding is one of the aspects this team, even while not healthy, doesn't do well. But when you look at the Cavs and the upside they have, but with the unknown with Harden, and then just the Pistons, who I think we've all kind of questioned whether or not it's going to translate into playoffs because of their lack of half-court shooting specifically, but also just general half-court creation. I think you can make cases for almost any of the top four.
Yeah.
I'd probably say the Knicks number one, probably the Cavs number two, just because I think there's more uncertainty there, especially since Harden's still dealing with a little bit of an injury. And then, honestly, it's real tight. Like you might convince me that the Celtics would be the toughest out in the playoffs. Even though I think they probably shouldn't be. I think that's disrespecting the Pistons quite a bit. But I do kind of need to see the Pistons succeed in the playoffs. They're the one team I think you can probably game plan against and be like, you have a shot. If you actually execute your scheme and you're healthy, you have a shot to take away some of their strengths.
I'll happily disrespect the Detroit Pistons right now. Not because I think that they are a bad team. Not because I think that they deserve anything less than the one seed that they've earned with their play this year. But it's the age-old story of until you've been through it, until you've done it, until you've accomplished things in the playoffs, it is very difficult to navigate. We saw it when OKC had their first 50-win year. They get to the second round. They meet a Dallas team that has a guy in Luka Doncic at the time, a guy in Kyrie Irving at the time, who Kyrie had won a title. Luka still has not won one, but had been through a lot of playoff wars and had put up big series. And, you're just navigating deeper runs. And last year's Pistons team got their first real taste of the playoffs. They played the Knicks in round 1, and frankly, I think played a pretty good series, and that was a little bit of a marginal loss in the end. But I still think it's a team that, if you look at how they are structured, really relies on Cade to do almost everything on offense. And while Cade has been great, and also unlike a lot of the what they call heliocentric stars, so like the Lukas, the James Hardens of the past, is also a very engaged and capable defender. That sets him apart from some of these guys. And that's why some of that style doesn't work in the playoffs. I do just tend to think you get to the postseason and teams are going to just sell out against Cade and look at these role players and say, if you don't give Duncan Robinson the open three, there are not a lot of guys on that roster who you think are going to consistently make threes in a playoff setting. Or if they're not making shots, they're not going to be able to take advantage of closeouts. They're not going to be able to be a viable enough secondary creator to punish teams for doubling, trapping, and pressuring Cade. And so to me, I still need to see the Pistons prove it first. I've seen what it looks like for maybe not this exact Knicks team, but a very similar Knicks team to go on a deep playoff run. Boston, while they've made changes, the main guys are still the main guys, and I would expect would drive them. To Derek's point, I think the Sixers' overall defensive philosophy just works the worst against Boston because you're giving them all the shots that they want. I would take a matchup with Detroit where they have an elite defense, they have an elite guy on the perimeter, but once you get past him and if you can slow him down, I don't know where the offense comes from. And I feel not great, but I feel better against that than I do some of these other teams. And Cleveland, I know that the Harden trade was made, and I agree there's uncertainty, but they haven't played them well one time this year.
It really does feel like there's 4 teams where you respect all of them, but you don't really fear. Like if you're fully healthy, you're not terrified of any of them. Because they're all somewhat flawed. They're all very good, but not great.
I would probably say Detroit to agree with you guys on that one. But when I do look at Detroit in that run last season in the playoffs, knockout in the first round, of course, Cade Cunningham did elevate his game, though.
He was very, very
when he
good.
got there. So when we talk about the secondary creation, a lot of it is just because of how elite he was once he got there, getting those shots for Duren. Duncan Robinson, as we talk about, he's been there. He's been in deep playoff runs with the Miami Heat as in the same role. So at least knowing what he has to do there. So if Cade Cunningham does elevate his game, though, that's the problem when it comes to helping Duren get some of those easy shots, some of the others getting their easier shots. Creation by themselves, I agree. But he definitely elevated his game when they got there. And the experience is there now. And like you talked about OKC, and when we say you have to get there first, they got beat, but man, it wasn't easy when the Knicks finally advanced in that Game 6 and it was controversial too, where you could say there should have been a Game 7 against the New York Knicks back in the Garden.
The Knicks having a controversial win in the playoffs?
Yeah.
That sounds unfamiliar to me.
Yeah. So I would say Detroit, I agree with you, but if Cade has it going on, man, he makes it so much easier for the others. And then I will go with, I do think if they're healthy, as the question is posed by Heffa, if they're healthy, like we said, if you get in, they can beat anybody. They can scare the hell out of anybody. The one that you always think about is the Boston Celtics because for whatever reason, they cannot slay the Boston Celtics. And now that we're talking about Jason Tatum on March 16th, what is he going to look like on April 16th or May 16th when you're looking at a guy who is motivated to do what he's doing coming back from this injury, but they're going for another championship run in this role. So, and the way that they lost last year in the playoffs where he gets injured, they are the ones that you want to see you beat them. The one that I am also a little afraid of, if however it played out this way, I know how close some of them have been, but they cannot beat the Atlanta Hawks. They just can't.
Well, I think that's a completely separate question that we also got from somebody regarding they got to get into the playoffs first, obviously. But this is, I think a lot of people are still trying to be in the mindset of they're in the playoffs and don't worry about the play-in and, hey, they're better than this team and that team. Can't put the cart before the horse, obviously.
What's the counter at now, Devon? How many in a row? Is Atlanta?
9.
9?
9 in a row to the damn Atlanta Hawks.
And the Hawks actually have won 9 in a row. We'll get to them a little bit later as we point out here. So great first question to start things off. Definitely Detroit. Boston is the one that is also in the mix because Jason Tatum right now is different from Jason Tatum that will probably be there in 2 months when things really, really matter. And
I will say just one counter to the whole, because I think the lack of shooting and secondary creation around Cade's a real problem for them. The flip side is the Sixers don't really have a great defensive option against Cade to begin with. It's one of the ones where he's a little bit too big for Kelly. So ideally, where I think you would probably have Paul George take that assignment. Paul George historically has not taken that assignment over the last couple of years, and asking him to do that all game would be difficult. So I think it's one of those. And then when you start going to the bench, it gets even worse. So I think it's one of those where even healthy, the Sixers, I agree, load up, take the ball out of Cade's hand, let anyone else beat you. The problem is they don't really have a great one-on-one option for when they do have to try to defend him without help.
If it's a Pistons series, Cade Cunningham is not going to be the one that beats them. You know who it's going to be that beats them in a playoff series. Exactly.
No way. Here's the thing.
Story-wise,
regular season games, I believe that. Playoffs,
I'm just saying, story-wise.
Tobias Harris, you're going to have to show me you can make shots.
Tobias has
about it. But story-wise, that's how it will
This is the key. You need to get him in the second round because second round Tobias is very different than first round Tobias.
That is true. He has had some very good first round playoff games. So has Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons for that.
We're not going to talk about that.
You know the story would.
That's not part of this story.
All right, I'm sorry, but you know what happened. 12 all day.
But so I do think there was a corresponding question from another member of the Discord, from Dr. Blah, who said pessimistic view of that same question. Assuming the Sixers are in the play-in, rank Orlando, Miami, Charlotte, Atlanta, and Toronto. Favorable, least favorable.
I think we start off with Toronto. I think they're the most favorable. And then I probably go Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Charlotte, which I can't believe I'm making Charlotte the toughest opponent out of that group. But with the way they've played over the last 2+ months, I think they probably deserve it.
I would put Atlanta before Charlotte.
I think those are the two I was debating the most.
Yeah, I put Atlanta before Charlotte. Toronto, I'm good. I even think when you look at Orlando, I'm fine. I mean,
I'm not. Yeah, Orlando is the highest seed right now. They're the 5th seed at 38-28. There is no fear in my heart about that offense.
And Pablo has been playing great basketball the last couple of weeks. Pablo has been playing great basketball the last couple of weeks. No Franz Wagner. We've talked about how different they are when one is off the floor versus the other being there and what they play like. You see, they have elevated themselves. I think they've won 6 in a row, 7 in a row. They've won. So they've been
7 games
really well.
in a row, yeah.
So with that, when we start going Toronto, Orlando, Miami, I think they can beat all of them. Atlanta at the very top, then Charlotte, and the rest of them, let's lace them up and see how it plays out. But it truly is Atlanta because, Colin, when I brought this up to you the first time,
toughest or the least tough?
As the toughest.
Okay.
As the toughest. It's because, yes, they have been close where they should have won maybe 1 or 2 of those games, but they can't figure it out. They just cannot figure it out. Whatever overtime, regulation, they cannot unlock it when it comes to them. And it's been Jalen Johnson. It's been CJ McCollum. It's been Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Everybody's had a game that has helped them beat the Sixers. Onyeka Okongwu. Everyone has had one. With Krejci, before he got traded, 7 threes in a game against the Sixers while he's a member of the Hawks. They can't figure it out. And I don't know why they can't figure it out, but they haven't. So that would be the one. The only thing with it is the motivation of, while we talk about the regular season, you need to beat them once to feel like you can beat them if you got into a postseason. We got to beat this team. They've had our number. We got to win this series. I mean, you win the series because you're in the playoffs, but the motivation of we cannot lose to this team after the way that they've handled us in the regular season. We have to beat this team. So they would be number 1 as far as the scariest, and then on down the line, Charlotte second, and then take your pick of the other 3. I'm not worried about them.
I think I might most want to see Charlotte for some of the same reasons as Well, not some of the same reasons. It's the inexperience factor with them. It's just like Khan's a rookie. LaMelo's never played a meaningful NBA game, really. Like a lot of these guys are just, they've never been in any kind of pressure-packed environment. I respect what they've done. I think they play a similar style to Boston. Not a surprise because Charles Lee was in Boston before he's the coach there, where maybe you play the aggressive help and they just bomb away on you from three. And I forget who it was in our Discord who called them the Timu Celtics, which I thought was a very funny way to describe it. But I think I would ultimately pick the Sixers there when push comes to shove. The experience factor, the confidence I have in the top options there. Atlanta, I get it. I'm also I'm not really worried about any of these teams. I do think they'll win a coin flip game at the least against Atlanta at some point. The Heat, it's a lot of just hunting Tyler Hero the whole game, assuming that he's healthy enough to play, which is always a question. Orlando, we laid out their offense. I don't trust them to score in any type of playoff setting, and I think late in games their offense just completely breaks down. Credit to them for finding ways to win when they have one of their two main guys available, but presuming that Franz is going to play in a play-in or playoff scenario, you then have to figure that out for them. I don't know. Toronto, honestly, although the Sixers have played well in games against them this year, they might scare me just because they have a few guys that might just randomly go off in a game, and in a one-off elimination type game, I'm a little more worried about that than I would be in a playoff series. But a long way of saying none of those teams are like, boy, I'm walking in there as the Sixers, whether you're the 7 seed or the 10 seed, and thinking we shouldn't win this game.
No, you might be scared. That's because you're scared that they might win the game, depending on how you feel about the draft pick.
Well, at this point, I think the tanking ship is I don't know if it ever started sailing, so it might just still be anchored to the dock. But we'll see if Joel decides he's going to play at some point this week. And maybe I'll revise my position on how I want the rest of the season to go.
Yeah, I'll take the Atlanta Hawks in this one, where the word just because. Can they beat them? Should they be able to beat them? Yeah, they haven't shown that they can. The inexperience of Charlotte is one that is absolutely there. I think, what was it, the play-in when LaMelo got there a few years ago? But he's the only one on that roster that was in that playoff series at that point. So, all right, those are the first two questions. It's about playoff seeding and opportunity once they got there, who you're more afraid of. When we come back, we'll get to a few more of these questions later on, a little news and notes as well. And we'll get to, as we hang out with you, the stretch right here presented by Rothman on the PHLY Sixers Podcast. It's a Mailbag Monday. Come on back. All right, with the playoffs just ahead of us, we don't want the players, Maxey and B, jumping into the stands when they do finally get back on the floor. No, it's not worth the risk, time, or money, even though a championship is something certainly in sight. Hopefully, you want to keep your stars focused on what they do best. And the same thing applies to your business, and that's where Togo comes into play for small and mid-sized businesses. Competing with bigger companies isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. And with competition heating up, you can't afford to fall behind. AI goes way beyond ChatGPT, and it gets overwhelming pretty fast. So Togo streamlines your operations by handling customer service, accounting, order management, logistics, admin, and so much more. Every engagement starts with free process mapping, and Togo doesn't bill a dime until the real work begins. So programs, they start as low as $1,000 a month and are built to scale without breaking the bank. Visit Harness Togo, that's TOGO.com, and mention PHLY for a free operational assessment.
And guys, next up, we want to tell you about Xfinity, specifically their 5-year price guarantee. Because what if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years? That's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense. And it lets you stream the game even when the whole family's online. All your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. And here's the best part. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and it's Xfinity's best equipment included. Take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, dreams grow bigger. But your Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable, and the price should stay put. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back here on the PHLY Sixers Podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, like and subscribe to the show. Leave a comment as well. Sign up, become a diehard member at allphly.com, where you can get all the written content from these guys on the Sixers, Eagles with the gang for free agency. And baseball season is about to get started. So from Anthony to Jamie and Corey, everybody writing about the Phillies. And then you have the Flyers, of course, Charlie writing about them. So allphly.com. Go ahead and check it out. Hang out. And we also got to tell you about Fran. We just talked about the PHLY Eagles and what they do over there. Been a lot of activity. Dallas Goedert back on the 1-year deal. A lot of A.J. Brown discussion. The draft is still upcoming, so a lot of work still left to be done by Howie Roseman in the front office for this offseason. So you got to get ready for Fran's film session, everybody. A meet and greet with Connor Barwin as well. This is April 8th, so less than a month away, 6 to 8 p.m. And listen, it's going to be a fantastic, fantastic event. Fran is tremendous when he's breaking the film down, getting ready for the draft. I'm sure after the draft, he'll probably do something like he did a year ago to break down the prospects that the Eagles did, in fact, select in the NFL draft. April 8th, 6 to 8 p.m., special guest Connor Barwin, former Eagle, will be in attendance, and we hope to see you there. Next in Line Comedy. So make sure you go sign up, allphly.com. Check it out. Get in there so you can come hang out, sit down, and learn from the best Fran Duffy right here from the PHLY network and PHLY Eagles overall. So it should be a good time.
All right. Shout out to Fran.
It's an important
and Connor Barwin.
Again, important offseason again for the Birds.
Always is.
Always.
You don't get an unimportant offseason in football.
No.
The roster can change so rapidly and so dramatically that no days off for Howie Roseman and company.
Especially with
for Fran.
A.J. Brown thing going on. My goodness.
Anyway.
I mean, come on. You know. All right, let's get to question number 3 here on the Mailbag Monday from Gene. What up, Gene? In the chat as well. Says, what are the vibes around the team? Seems like even when they get their teeth kicked in, no one is upset or sad or gloomy. It looks like they are mad. They lost, but it's 1 of 82. Is the team closer knit? And when we get everybody back, we'll be rolling. Just wondering. Thanks. Appreciate it, Gene.
I think we've said from the beginning, and the Sixers players have talked quite a bit about this being a pretty close team. Some of that was aided by they intentionally went younger in the offseason. And so a lot of these guys are more up and coming, something to prove. They're in the gym early, or back at the practice facility early, I should say, scrimmaging, hanging out, building some off-court rapport as well. And so there's been, like a pretty good base of trust, respect, et cetera, in one another. And I would say that matters a lot more than I think what fan impression of vibes can be, which is largely driven by did they win or they lose tonight. Like I think a lot of people get trapped in, boy, that was a miserable game and a miserable loss, or this was a terrible week. The vibes are awful. The season's gone off the rails. When that's just, as professionals, they just can't view it that way. And I understand you want them to feel this, and they do. They feel probably an even more strong emotion than you feel about, because they put all this time in. They're going through the scouting. They're doing this. They're doing that. And then you have these losses to the undermanned Nuggets. You have collapses against the Bulls. You have these things that happen throughout the year. But they have to just, you flush it, you move on, and you can't allow that to influence hey, here, we're just going to get rid of all the work we did. All our relationships are out the window. So I think the vibes are relatively good because they're not so dependent on what happened today or what happened last night, what has happened since the All-Star break. It's just it's a bunch of guys who spend 8 months out of the year traveling together, practicing together, playing together. And these guys like each other by and large. Like a lot of good guys, good hangs in the locker room as well. They all kind of fit a bunch of different roles and work together, whether the stars are in or out. So I think it's, as much as the vibes matter, the vibes are good. Unfortunately, you also just need to get talent on the floor. Like that's a much bigger deal than like, hey, everybody's having a good time after wins or everybody's steaming mad after losses. You got to get your best players on the floor, and that will determine where the season goes.
Yeah, I think, for the most part, like every now and then when Tyrese has to carry everything, you can see him, I don't want to say get like down, but he's certainly like there's a heaviness to how the responsibility he has when Paul's out, when Joel's out, and all of that. But even there, I don't think he was down per se. I think he was just, all right, let's get through this until everyone's able to come back. I don't think, certainly compared to like fans, the vibes don't take the hits that fans do. Like fans are ready to give up on the season every time everyone gets injured. I don't think that's the way the team looks at it at all. I think they still believe in themselves and believe that, when everybody gets back, they have a chance to compete. It's just, all right, how do we get through this period onto the brighter end of the season? And for the most part, I think they do a pretty good job of that. I think they come in and they take the game seriously, but if things don't go well, I think they move on and on to the next one. No, I think it's a pretty good group of guys in that respect.
After a lot of these blowouts, it is interesting to hear. I mean, we say it oftentimes, just do away with that one, throw it away and move on to the next one. But they have said it a lot, especially on the days where they have a game on the next night, if it's the second night of a back-to-back, where they just get right back after it and generally come back out and perform a lot better. Don't they have a better record on night 2 than they do? And
like 11-3 in
the
second half of back-to-backs this
Right.
year, which is aided by the fact that I think early they would play PG and Joel in those games and load up for that.
Yeah. So after getting destroyed in one where we lose our minds, you lose your minds, they generally do come back and respond pretty well. But that does go a long way from what the character is in that locker room. And how much of this, because I'm not around as much as you guys, but how much of it is when we do give praise to Tyrese Maxey of just his personality, the type of leadership that he now has in year number 6 as a no doubt about leader in that locker room, how much would you lay at the feet of him of just bringing the right energy, the right focus into that locker room to make sure that they are that way?
He definitely gets some of the credit for that. I would say one thing that I always push back on is like people think of the word accountability, and in their minds, a lot of the time it's someone being loud and it's someone being, in many cases, accusatory, when real accountability is being able to have a conversation with someone that you like and respect and saying, I didn't get enough from you today. Like, what's up with you? And you can turn that into a conversation. Or, for example, the big example last year, which was a huge story because it leaked, was Tyrese in the meeting they had after the Heat lost, where he called out Joel for timeliness. And as they have talked about that since, a lot of the retelling of it, or at least re-discussion of it, has been, that wasn't meant to be a thing that's like, I'm going up to a microphone and saying, this guy's late all the time and this guy sucks, right? It's a lot different to be in a closed circle and to say, hey, Joe, I need more from you. I need you here earlier. Like, as someone with a real stake in how the season goes, how the team goes, etc. Tyrese and Joel have rapport and can look at one another and say, if Tyrese is not bought in on defense, if Joel is not giving his all on a practice, like, they can look at each other and say, I know that you can offer us better. I know that you can do better for us. That's what accountability and leadership is. And I think the good thing about the Sixers group this year is they have guys who are willing to do those things, but it is not in a self-serving, I'm going to sit at a podium or in front of a microphone and be like, man, these guys suck tonight. Like, it's a lot of, we can do better. We need to do this. We need to do that. And there have been guys that have played for the Sixers in the past, while maybe they didn't do it in a presser, were a little bit more, I'd say, accusatory and a little bit more.
Is his first name James?
Yeah, someone who a lot of fans and look, was a great basketball player, but Jimmy is a lot harsher, and it does not. Leadership needs to be tailored to the intended target, right? What works for someone. Some people can get screamed at and yelled at, and that's okay. I will get better from this. Some people need to be treated with kid gloves, and fostering an environment in a locker room, in a workplace, wherever, is figuring out who needs what and when. And I think for the most part, from what we see and what we know, they've done a good job of that this year. And to answer your question, Devon, yes, I think Maxey being, one of the most important guys on this team is a big part of that.
I think the only thing I'd add in terms of getting through this period is most of the players who are on the court are getting the opportunity of a lifetime. Like VJ is getting a chance to play, a ton of minutes with the ball in his hands and get reps as a lead ball handler. Quentin needs a contract next summer, is getting a chance, to showcase himself. A lot of the role players are getting more shots and more minutes than they've ever gotten. So of course, they might want the stars back so they can win games, but they're also probably looking at, all right, well, what can I take out of this situation and make the most of it? And you tend to get the best effort when guys have something to play for like that.
All right. Appreciate the question. Thank you, Gene. Thanks for asking that question. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We later on have to get to the stretch as well. We keep the questions going here on the Mailbag Monday. Sixers off today, back on the floor against the Denver Nuggets on Tuesday night in Denver, then Sacramento, Utah as well. So a quick 3-game West Coast trip for the 76ers. Some important games for them, obviously. We'll see how things play out, but we continue to answer your questions right here on the PHLY Sixers Podcast.
Tax season's funny because it's one of the only times all year that you actually look at your full financial picture. You see what you made, you see what you spent, and you see what you saved. And sometimes you're sitting there looking at it going, wait a minute, where did all that money go? That's why I've been using Monarch. It helps you see exactly where your money's going and where something like a tax refund can actually make the biggest impact, whether that's paying down debt or building up savings. Simplify your finances with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool that's designed to help make your life easier. It brings your entire financial life in focus. Budgeting, accounts and investments, net worth, and future planning together in one dashboard on your phone or your laptop. Feel aware and in control of your finances this tax season and get 50% off your Monarch subscription with code PHLY. Monarch actually helps you stay proactive. They have their AI insights, which highlight spending trends and patterns you might miss, and the weekly recap keeps you updated on things like spending spikes. Achieve your financial goals for good with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes money management simple. Use code PHLY at monarch.com for half off your first year. It's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code PHLY.
All right, Philly, quick shout out to something awesome that's coming to the city. If you love boxing, live events, or just a wild night out, maybe you like all those things, you've got to check out Team Boxing League. When the Philly Smoke step into the ring, March 20th at the Fillmore. It's a rematch of last year's championship against the New York City Attitude. You don't want to see a Philly team lose to New York and anything, so you got to come out and support in full force. This isn't your typical boxing event. Team Boxing League's fast, high energy, built for fans, team versus team, nonstop action. The crowd's also right on top of it. Big fight atmosphere with a Philly edge, the kind of night every punch gets the room going. And the Philly Smoke are representing the city against New York, so you got to show out, show some love. And if you want to be there live, grab your tickets right now at teamboxingleague.com. Teamboxingleague.com. Use the promo code PHLY when you check out to score your tickets. March 20th at the Fillmore. Come out and support the Philly Smoke, and they take on the NYC Attitude. Get your tickets at teamboxingleague.com with the code PHLY.
And as we come back, we got to acknowledge someone's birthday. Kyle mentioned it at the top, but maybe some of you just got here. The big fella, Joel Embiid. Happy birthday to Joel. Listen, man, we've seen him for
32 years old.
We've seen him for a long time now.
Yes, we have.
He is 32 years of age.
It hit me
crazy.
Hit me the other night, or last night, the other night when they mentioned that Drew Holiday. Yeah, last night. Drew Holiday had
Sunday.
Is in like year 16 or 17. I'm like, oh my God, there's no way. There is no way.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Joel. And Ramid says this, latest on Embiid for the upcoming game since we have 3 games
The
on this
latest
West
is
Coast
what
trip.
was said Saturday at the arena, which is there is no current formal update that Joel might be back on the road trip, that he's making progress, but we don't have anything concrete. Ramid, the latest you'll hear, or the next update we're expecting, will be later this evening when the Sixers submit their official injury report for the Denver game. That has not happened, so if you see anything that makes a suggestion that he is in, out, questionable, anything until later tonight, it's based on speculation. So that's what we got for right now. We're hoping that he's back sooner rather than later, because, boy, he would make a big difference for this group, but nothing quite yet.
Happy birthday, Joel. 32 years of age. All right, let's get to the next question here on the Mailbag Monday. And that is from Dr. Blah, saying, what are some of the bigger takeaways from the past few games, non-Maxey related, as it relates to VJ, Watford, Bona, Barlow, Edwards, and to a lesser extent, Jabari Walker with the expanded roles they are on? 14 games left. 8 likely playoff teams. What's the prediction for the record over that span, assuming
I'm done predicting.
no new
records for this
injuries
team.
from Maxey,
All
PG,
due respect to our guy,
return
Dr. Blah.
on
No
scheduled
more record
timeline,
predictions.
Joel back for the last at least 10 games. All right. What are your thoughts on how the guys have fared on the floor?
Good. I wish that VJ had shot a little better this weekend. Although I talked to him in the locker room Sunday night after the Blazers game, and we largely agreed on the fact that I think he got to where he wanted to go against Portland pretty well and missed a lot of shots that are within his wheelhouse. Nurse talked about it after the game. Portland, going in, is going to have Klingon playing pretty deep drop, and they're going to keep him around the rim where he can impact the game as a shot blocker. So the Sixers countered that by saying we're going to run pretty high screen pick and roll, and that's going to create a lot of space in the in-between areas. So I thought VJ did a decent job of getting to mid-range jumpers, and they created a bit of separation for him out of basic pick and rolls, but also Iverson cuts and other off-ball actions, because he's battling like Drew Holiday, Tumani Kamara, Matisse Thybulle, all guys who are long, athletic, and good defenders. So while I've been a little disappointed in his overall output, I think the fact that he rose to the moment, hit those shots late game, and the process was good. I was very happy with that stuff. Elsewhere, I think you look at Justin Edwards, of course, and you say, how do you channel this when everyone else is back? Because he's not going to get the same time and touches and just opportunities to step into mid-range jumpers and get himself going in different ways when everyone's on the floor. But he needs to be able to contribute defensively and make some extra passes in transition and make the little things type of plays when the full roster is there. And that will buy him more time. That will buy him more shots where he can show what he is made of offensively, because that's what made him such a high-level recruit coming out of high school. It is part of why they bet on him after a disappointing year in college, is like, there's more to this kid than he showed at Kentucky. Like, there's something to work with here. So for me, a really important part of this stretch with no Oubre, still no George for another, I think it's like 5 games at this point, something like that, is continue to harness what Justin has going on, build his confidence, because if you just get one more playable wing, like, it's basically like getting another player on the roster, because he's been such a non-entity. If he can give you a solid 15 minutes in a playoff game after being out of the rotation all year, that's a massive victory from all these injuries they've had. So I love what I've seen from him. I think the attentiveness and his off-ball play on defense have been way better than at any other point this year. And that's really the key for young players. Even bad young players defensively are going to get stops in isolation. Like, some guys will just see a good player across from them. You dig in, you lock in, you're like, all right, I stopped that guy. and then they give away 4 or 5 possessions because they got their hands on their hips off ball, they're ball watching, and their guy back cuts them. I think he's done a way better job of navigating that stuff recently. And I hope that that's something that they're harping on in film in a positive way and saying, Justin, you do this stuff, you're going to earn yourself, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it might be, when the full group is back. So that is a really important thing I think we're all seeing right now.
Yeah, I think Justin was the main takeaway. I think the other player I'd kind of look to, and the timing of this is kind of bad because last night was easily his worst game in quite a while. In part, I think that was matchup related. But I think Edem has been playing way more consistently over the last 2-3 weeks, maybe even going back to a month, where he's finally starting to channel some of that athleticism and aggressiveness and not putting himself out of position as much as he previously was. Even last night, which again I think was with Klingon was a pretty bad matchup for him. He's just too big. But I thought he did a good job of pursuit on the offensive glass, of keeping possessions alive in that regard. So even in a bad matchup, I think he found ways. And I just think he's been way more consistent of late, which Sixers need. And hopefully when Joe comes back, it means that, maybe we have the backup center spot locked down.
I would go with Edwards on this one and look at what he has done. We talked about it a little bit last night on postgame, also both games on Saturday and Sunday. But the on-ball defense, the stuff that we thought he could do a little bit more of too, putting the ball on the floor, with confidence, getting to a spot right around that free throw line where he can just inside, let's just say about 13 feet from the basket in that fadeaway jumper or the pull-up jumper that he's knocking down. If he can do that consistently, that just opens up the driving. Mm-hmm. And it also opens up because they know he can take the outside shot that they have to close out a little bit harder. So a lot of stuff to take away that he's been really good at. And it's good to see it because if he can give them any minutes, any stretch that his number is called in the postseason, you hope that it's just a positive for the time that he is out there because of the shooting and then the other little intangible things that he can bring to the table. And having these minutes where he's not being pulled off the floor like somebody else who's playing in OKC now, where the confidence is just there because the minutes are yours. What are you going to do with them? And he has made the most of them. So it's good to see that both from him and Bona during the stretch.
See, you put that bait out there and I didn't even take it. That is personal growth right there.
I will add on to Derek's Bona point that I think one of the things I've been the happiest with is that he's still impacting the game as a shot blocker, but there's not as much just, I'm going to jump at everything. I'm going to swing my arms wildly. Like he ended up committing a couple of fouls in the fourth quarter against Brooklyn on Saturday, but up to that point had largely avoided foul trouble and had a really solid two-way game. He's rebounding the ball as well. I 100% agree that the biggest thing in the Portland game is that's just a terrible matchup for him. Like Klingon is enormous. And while you hope that maybe Edem can win some mobility battles, it just, look, he killed him on the glass. And Nurse said tonight is a Drummond night. And I think he was rewarded for that. It's the best Drummond game we've had in quite a while, right? Like I can't remember the last time that he offered as much as he did in that game on Sunday. So I think Edem showing real growth as a decision maker on both ends of the floor. Offensive rebound, he's looking for those, kickouts to the perimeter more consistently, keeping his hands back and not fouling quite as much, save for that Memphis game last week where he was in foul trouble quite a bit. I think he has shown pretty steady play since the All-Star break, which is really all we have ever asked for. The highs that he can hit with his athleticism and motor are evident. The problem has just been staying on the floor. And so I think as you see him read the game quicker and play with less scatterbrained mentality, we'll say, I think he's been a more consistent impact player for them.
All right. Appreciate the question, Dr. Bly. We take our final break here on the show. When we come back, we'll get to the stretch presented by Rothman. And news and notes to close out the show, as well as the PHLY Sixers mailbag on Monday. Time to tell you about our new partner at AirDNA, the leader in data on short-term rentals. Yes, and they just released a free calculator to see how much you can make renting your home out for the World Cup. That's right, occupancy is up 200+% already for the group stage matches, and we are still just months away. This money can help your audience reach their financial goals. See what I did there? remodeling the bathroom, maybe build a new patio, go on a dream vacation, pay off some of their mortgage, whatever you need. This is a once-in-a-lifetime tourism event right there that's driving the demand. Hosts earnings expect to reach nearly $212 million, 130% year-over-year increase in demand across all host cities as well. All right, listen to the sound of my voice as I tell you, think about the new brand patio, the brand new one, the season tickets, the epic vacation. Hey, maybe World Cup and stay with a friend while you rent out your house. I don't care what you do with your money. It's yours. But go see how much you can make at airdna.co/Sixers.
Guys, we've all had those days where you're moving nonstop. You suddenly realize, man, I'm hungry. I forgot to eat. I had one of those just today when I got pulled out of bed for an emergency, and Wawa was there for me when my day finally stabilized hours later, because the $5 big breakfast meal deal goes from 5 to 11, and you get everything. You get a sizzly. I always get a bacon, egg, and cheese on a croissant. You get a hash brown. You can get any size coffee, hot or iced. I'm getting a large iced coffee. That's all for $5. And the deals do not stop at 11 a.m. when that deal stops, because you can get chicken sandwich deals, crispy or roasted, created your way for $5 all day. And they've even got new teriyaki recipes for a limited time. They are delicious. I got to get away from my normal Buffalo to give that a try. So start your day strong. Fuel up whenever you need with Wawa's $5 deals. Limited time. Exclusions apply. See Wawa.com for details. Gotta have a Wawa.
All right, we're back. Final segment here on the PHLY Sixers post-game show. Let's get to Mr. Sandman's Super Chat before we get to the stretch presented by Rothman. Mr. Sandman, Bring Me a Dream says, Phil Jackson 40-20 philosophy says that you have to win 40 games before losing 20 games to be a contender. Do you seriously think we have a chance?
I mean, I think that's probably outdated in the load management era of the NBA. I don't think teams are trying to win 2 out of 3 in the regular season like they previously were. So that was probably true, in the 90s and early 2000s. I don't think it's necessarily the case anymore. Do I think...
I have bad news for you.
What's that? 41
of the last 45 champions have successfully cleared this rule.
Champions, yes. But if you just go to let's say conference finals or greater, because that's where I would consider contender. But it's a fair rebuttal. I do think teams are changing their approach. Let's just say that. Do I think they're content? I don't think any of us picked them to leave the Eastern Conference. I don't think any of us have necessarily been on board with that. I would like one really good playoff series win and then go from there. I think we all understand the unlikeliness of really Embiid and Paul George staying healthy for long enough to win 16 playoff games is slim. So I don't think any of us are truly penciling them in as inner circle contenders. And I think Daryl's telling you that he doesn't believe they're an inner circle contender with what they did at the deadline. I won't mention any more words on that. Kyle said no more talking about that subject today, but you can all understand what I'm saying.
So since 2000, there are 2 teams who have won the title who did not qualify by the 40-20 rule.
LeBron teams?
No, actually.
No? Okay.
The most recent one was the 2021 Milwaukee Bucks, which, some people feel that wasn't a real title because it was impacted by COVID and whatnot. Everyone played by the same rules, so I disagree with that. The only other team this century was the 2006 Miami Heat, and they went exactly 40-20. So that's... Oh, actually, no, I missed one. I stand corrected. The 2004 Detroit Pistons were 40-25. That's when they hit the 40 win mark. But everybody else cleared this threshold, including a lot of the more recent champions. Of course, the Thunder were 40-9 last year. Celtics 40-12. Nuggets 40-18. Warriors 40-13. It is a pretty hard and fast rule with just a few exceptions. So I think Derek's right, though. I don't think we consider them an inner circle contender. I don't think the Sixers have acted like they are an inner circle contender. I think their case rests on being an outlier in many ways. I have said for most of 2 years now, as they've soft played the regular season with Joel, that I think the regular season matters a hell of a lot more than they have acted like it does. It just is for all the reasons you would think, chemistry building out your rotations and your different lineups that you're going to play, figuring out here are our best sets. Here's how we iterate on those. All of those things are very difficult to establish in the pressure cooker of the playoffs. Sometimes you will stumble into, hey, this works best and we can just ride it. But that generally happens to teams that already have a lot of other stuff banked from the regular season. An example I would say is the Heat a little bit fell into the Chris Bosh at the 5 stuff during their first championship run. They had tinkered with it in the regular season, but it became more of a staple when they went on that first title run. So there are some things that you can gain, but you generally need health. You generally need production. You generally need a lot of wins in the regular season.
All right. Thanks for the question, Mr. Sandman, for the super chat. Let's get to the stretch presented by Rothman. Visit RothmanOrtho.com to learn more. Visit RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY to learn more. This is the stretch for the Philadelphia 76ers as they begin a 3-game road trip, starting with the Denver Nuggets on Tuesday night. That's going to be, of course, supposed to be a big matchup, Jokic and Embiid, but for another season, we will not see Joel Embiid in Denver to play the basketball game. Maybe he'd be on the bench. He doesn't duck that. So
I'm sure there will be nothing said about whether he plays or doesn't play in Denver.
Absolutely nothing.
So real quick, just building off of that, I went back and checked the last 20 conference finalists, and only 8 of those 20 met the 40-20 rule. So it does seem like there's something, and before that, it was overwhelming, like 95% of conference finalists. So I do think it's shifting. Now, the great teams, those capable of winning the championship, probably do meet that threshold. But you can have a heck of a run without doing so. But the Sixers, like Kyle mentioned, their postseason success is built on getting exceptionally lucky at the right time.
All right, cool. Denver, Tuesday, 10 o'clock start, 9:30 pregame for us. Then Thursday, 10 o'clock, Sacramento Kings. I was watching a little bit of Sacramento Kings last night. They don't run a lot of people out there. It's a lot of...
I have some thoughts on one particular Sacramento
Well, real
King
fast. Killian Hayes is on that team now.
That's the exact Sacramento King I was thinking of.
Oh, you were going there?
Devon.
I thought we were going
Correct.
with our guy, Maxime Ray. No, but go for it.
They signed Killian Hayes after he posted maybe the most disgusting stats I think I've ever seen from a guy who was like, you know what? Let's keep him around.
First, it was a 10-day. Then I don't know if it was a second 10-day, but I know it started as a 10-day.
He is posting, and I promise you, these are real stats. He's shooting 31% from the field, averaging just under 5 points a game. He is turning the ball over. Oh, turnovers are down, actually. So turnover a game against about 3.5 assists a night. How do you say a guy who's shooting 31% from the field is like, you know what? We got to make sure he sticks around on this roster. Unless you are just committed to losing, which I do think is the case here.
Even for his career, he shoots 38% and 28% from 3.
Oh, listen.
He was a 7th overall
38% would be a marked improvement right now for him. So, hey, at least they have, we'll see. We'll check in with our friend Maxime Reynaud, who has been playing pretty damn well, who we talked about as a guy maybe they should have taken with that second-round pick they had last year.
He would help.
Been hooping a little bit.
Him and Precious Achiuwa.
Yeah.
The name we talked about on a 1-year deal in the offseason that you can get pretty cheap. And they have both, as starting at the 4 and the 5, they have been hooping out there. Nick Clifford playing pretty well also for them. And Russell Westbrook had a triple-double, not last night, 2 nights before. So DeMar DeRozan had 41 and 10, I think, last night. So he looked pretty good in that role. But Sacramento, they host the Sixers on Thursday. And then on Saturday, it's the Utah Jazz. And these are 2 games that you hope that they can.
Got to get these ones.
Got to take those 2 no matter, again, who's out there on the floor. Even though you're on the road, you hope you can take both of those. And then on Monday, he returns. Jared McCain and the OKC Thunder will be back on Monday, March 23rd.
Does he get a standing ovation?
Yes, he will.
Because he'll definitely get cheered.
Sure.
He will absolutely get cheered. My question is it a standing O?
I don't know if it'll be a stand.
Well, he's coming off the bench too, so he's going to come in on a dead ball situation where Sixer fans are well aware of what he's been doing. They are ticked off. He will get a standing ovation to say something to the front office and the head coach for not playing him or trading him. I think that's why it extends to a standing ovation.
Do you think?
And he gets a video.
I was gonna say, do you think he gets a video? Because there's some politics in that.
He's done enough to. They can put together enough of a highlight package.
They have definitely given a highlight video to lesser players.
Now, unless it goes to the top where they're saying, because the way things have turned out, no video.
I do feel like they probably are a little bit incentivized to downplay his tenure here. We'll see.
So just let the fans
I'm always
do their
fascinated by the politics of tribute videos where, to your point, I think there are guys that come back and you're like, really?
I agree with that. But
so
in this case,
see.
We'll
in this case, it's more about, does it make you look bad to give them a tribute video?
If you don't do it,
highlighting
though,
that,
fans are going to be like, why not? Why not?
We'll see. We'll see.
I'm
really curious about the standing O aspect. Like if people are, or let's say they don't do that, but it's more of a anti-Darryl, anti-ownership chant that breaks out because of this. There will be a
fair.
I would imagine a lot of the people that are at that game are paying a little bit of attention to what Jared is doing for the defending champions.
Important games all around for this one, just period. Denver, it's Denver. And then the 2 games sandwich in between with the OKC part of, can you win both of those games to help continue to stack the W's? Because 14 games left, everyone matters right now in terms of trying to build up your win total to keep up with the rest of the group in the Eastern Conference that you're bunched up win from 5 to 10 in the standings. So
and Devon, you know what else that stretch shows? Those are the last 4 games the Sixers will have to play with Paul George being suspended. That Thunder game is the dramatic conclusion to the 25-game suspension. We heard from Nick Nurse yesterday or over the weekend. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes, it was yesterday. That he said there will be no ramp up for Paul George. He will be ready to go.
Asked that question earlier.
So, for anyone who did not catch that pregame yesterday, Paul George, according to Nick Nurse, knock on wood, I'll kick the table here a little bit, he does not need a ramp up. He will be back March 25th against the Chicago Bulls. He's been in the gym. He's been able to practice.
Yes.
This has only impacted his ability to play in games and be on the bench for games. So he should be full go next week. And I look forward to them having some competent wing play out there. Will make a big difference.
Headfirst campaigning to keep everybody off the floor, especially Embiid against OKC and Lou Dort for a lot of reasons that we've seen Lou Dort in the news. Not for shots, making shots, taking shots at players and almost injuring them. So
is he the new Marcus Smart? Is that fair to say? Where Oklahoma City fans will defend him to the death. He's a very tough and physical player, but also as an egregious flopper who gets away with dirty plays too. Well, sometimes gets away with dirty plays.
He's gotten away with a lot of bad ones too.
He's very Marcus Smartish.
He might be. Yeah. That's the
stretch. New
gen. Presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more. Visit the nearest Rothman. Check out all the 30-plus convenient locations and urgent care centers that they have for you. If you need to go get checked out, Rothman is the place for you to go. All right, we're going into overtime here quickly, everybody. So make sure you check us out at allphly.com for the remainder of the show. On the television side, we'll see you tomorrow, 9:30 pregame for Sixers
late night,
Nuggets,
baby.
Right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. All right, let's get to news and notes. Thought we can get to this one a little bit earlier, but there's a conversation here that needs to be discussed, and that is Shams on ESPN and on Twitter sharing that the NBA will hold their Board of Governors meetings over the next week, and they will talk about the expansion. We've discussed Las Vegas and Seattle as 2 teams. He mentions the 2 teams here, and with it, later on, there's also some conversation about the realignment of the conferences and having to, if Vegas and Seattle, which are on the West Coast, are going to have to be part of that, what changes in terms of the balancing out of the two conferences. 30 teams, as we know, so 15 in each will now be a total of, when you look at them, 16 now. And what changes, who has to go where for the Eastern Conference?
Two very obvious candidates. It's just a matter of who I think.
So the ones that were mentioned were Minnesota and Memphis, but there's been a lot of pushback on why not New Orleans as one of them, because it seemed like logistically that makes more sense. So I'll ask you guys. We've talked about this
I think
before.
both Minnesota and Memphis make a lot of sense. Memphis is very east compared to a lot of these teams. And if you make Minnesota an Eastern Conference
the
team,
New Orleans piece?
Not that New Orleans is not, but I'm saying they don't seem like they're in real discussions. And New Orleans is also, so it's not that Minnesota is far east.
Mm-hmm.
It's that if you put them in the east, their travel can be made a lot shorter and more simplistic because you have all those Great Lakes teams. It's like
Indy, Chicago.
Exactly.
Cleveland.
Detroit and New Orleans, you're still fairly close there to the Texas teams. And that kind of whatever they call that, is that Southwest, that division. So that's why I understand that a little bit, where it's like, okay, you maintain that, and then one of Minnesota or Memphis. It's not to say that New Orleans couldn't move, but it just doesn't seem like that's on the table. I would say my first thought when I saw this has been discussed a lot. Like, I don't think this has surprised anybody. The thing that jumped out at me from a Sixers perspective is the 28-29 potential start for these teams for multiple reasons. One, expansion draft and what that's going to look like. The Sixers, most of their contracts right now are cleared by then, and so they wouldn't have a lot of guys that you'd have to, at least that are currently on the roster, you'd have to think about protecting in a potential expansion draft. But also, how does this impact their Clippers pick that they have in 2028 and the pick swap, which they have in 2029? You're adding two brand new teams to the league. Typically, they have gotten, the highest odds for, drafts. So are they going to just give them top picks? How is that going to work? It's been so long since they've actually had an expansion draft and factored them into the draft conversation that we don't know how the league will go about this. I don't know if there's actually a specific clause within the CBA that they'll point to, or if this has to be hashed out at the Board of Governors. So how will that impact the Sixers on multiple fronts? The other part is I'm very happy for Seattle that they appear to be on the verge of getting a team back. It has never
100%.
It has never sat right with me. I know why, because other franchises have done it, but it never sat right with me that the Thunder inherited all the Sonics records and statistics. And I know that the Lakers claim Minnesota titles, and I don't like that either. But I think when you consider how Seattle lost their team and there's been lots of reporting in the public about it. I think given how they lost the team, I always hated how they held on to their records. So I'm hoping that they can just, Thunder, your history starts at when you started playing in Oklahoma City, and you give the rest back to the Seattle, presumably Supersonics, and then we just sit and debate, what will the Las Vegas team be named? That's my other piece of intrigue.
We talked about that a little bit, and I still don't have a good answer. I think
the high roller, it'll be some kind of gambling motif,
yeah,
but I don't know how much they'll lean into that.
With the women's team, I don't know. What do you
the NBA seems like they're very leery about leaning into any kind of gambling related stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think for the most part, like, it's just, it has never sat well that Seattle lost their team. And fixing that to me is the primary focus. It has to be named the Supersonics. To me, there's no discussion about that. I do think logistically it'll be interesting. If I remember back, I think there was a rule where the new team couldn't win the top pick 2 years in a row.
Okay.
I don't know if that's actually written anywhere in the CBA or the bylaws. I'd have to go back and check that. But we'll be curious to see how they handle that and how they handle the expansion drafts and all the details around that. Because we just haven't had to deal with this in 30-plus years now. So this is all stuff that a lot of fans have never experienced. Even to Kyle's point about, the records and whatnot in the history, most of the movement that happened in the NBA happened before our lifetimes. This is pretty unique with what happened there with OKC. So yeah, it'll be I'm happy it's happening. I think this is something that's needed to happen for a very long time. Frankly, the fact that it happened, Seattle moving away at all sucks. But I'm very happy they're fixing it.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see what is all determined next week with the Board of Governors. But Seattle obviously is the big story of it all, some realignment. And then the interesting part of Las Vegas, because Derek's right. The NBA has no, don't worry about the gambling stuff. So let's just have an NBA team in Las Vegas. Not a big deal. All right.
Here's what I would ask you guys while we're on the topic. How do you feel about there being expansion? Like, I think we're all in favor of the Sonics specifically. Are we all pro expansion in light of, I guess, the overall quality of the league and some of the other tanking stuff?
I'm fine with it. I think that just because I think it was John Peace who said, great, 2 more teams when we talk about all the stuff with the tanking. I think there's enough talent in the NBA, especially when you can spread some of those stars out, that there's stars on every team, no matter what. So it's just a matter of what are your front offices doing to make sure that they're doing the right thing in terms of putting the teams together and not only focus on tanking. Now, yes, we look at Brooklyn and you have some situations there and some of the others that we see that's going on with Utah. Sacramento has been just a wasteland for talent for so many years and they can't get out of their own way. But that doesn't mean it's not going to work in Las Vegas or Seattle or any other team that you put a team in that particular city. So I don't have a problem with it because I do think there are enough star-level talent, number one, to drive those franchises. And I think there's enough talent in general to field teams for 2 more squads in the league.
Yeah, I also think where we're headed is more like a 2 stars and role players that make sense model. And if you add 2 more teams, and those 2 teams are able to, because they have cap space, get 2 stars, now all of a sudden that talent is spread out more. And in the past, I think I probably would have looked at negatively, like you don't want the talent spread out. But I think the role player talent has gotten so good that if you spread stars out more, then I think it's probably going to create a pretty watchable and intriguing game. I'm pretty happy with the fact that it's getting harder and harder, and despite the fact of where the Sixers sit, to stack 3+ stars and keep them together long term. And I think this actually kind of helps that.
Yeah, I still think the league's biggest enemy is the schedule more than anything, and it will not change. They're not. Nobody's taking money off the table and inventory for the TV networks and all that. But I think if I were running it as purely from this is what's best for the product, player health, overall, like just the quality of games, I'd be looking at the schedule of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because I agree. I do think that there is enough talent out there. I think the problem right now is that the talent is not on the floor enough for the length of the season. And I don't say that this is not like a back in the day type thing, because all the data that's out there and just your basic eye test says these guys are covering more ground, like the way that the league is stretched out by the 3-point line and how fast these guys are moving. All of that has put a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. So I would be looking at ways that you can more dramatically change the product to make the night-to-night, game-to-game stuff better. So I think there's a way to do that. Add the 2 teams. Hell, add more teams if the first 2 teams go well over a period of time. But also think a little more about this is not just a tanking thing. This is a structure of the league thing that you got to really dive deep and say what is best for the game. Not necessarily what's best for lining everybody's pockets with the absolute most money possible. What is going to promote the health of basketball and the NBA the most? That's what's on my mind moving forward.
All right. So we'll find out more next week with the Board of Governors, 24th, 25th, as Shams pointed out. And I know we'll have a lot more discussion after that in regards to the Sixers and additions of teams and then what for the Philadelphia 76ers. All right, one final quick news and notes. No food today, everybody.
Damn it.
No food. We're just going all sports because one of the Eagles, I mean, who knew that he would become one of the all-time greats, one of the more well-liked players for the Philadelphia Eagles, a Super Bowl champion, multiple-time Pro Bowler, and just a fantastic career after leaving Detroit, coming to Philadelphia. Darius Slay today announced that he will be retiring after 13 seasons in the NFL. I saw something yesterday where someone asked him about him coming back for the 2026 season, and he said there's only one team that they can call him that would make him play football, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. He got picked up off of waivers by the Buffalo Bills, a contending Super Bowl team, and said, no, I'm not reporting to your team. If the Eagles, though, traded for me at the deadline, I would have suited up for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Darius Slay, congratulations on a fantastic career in general, but certainly all the joys and some frustration with a lot of Eagle fans, especially at the end of how he played the cornerback position. But he was tremendous. One of the favorites for me to watch at that cornerback spot, Darius Slay retiring from the NFL. Tremendous career. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him indeed. Obviously made a big impact on some of the most successful Eagles teams ever.
I was a big fan at that position. For many years, they needed to replenish that position. They've done so with the young guys, but when they went and got him, I said, okay.
Yeah, that's a guy.
They got one.
That's not just a guy. That's a guy.
They went and got
That's
Slay.
what I would say about Darius
They went
Slay.
and got him, and it worked out. So good stuff. Darius Slay retiring from the NFL. I heard the guys. So if you want to hear the PHLY Eagles podcast talk about it, I know they were talking about it at the top of the show, did a little bit more during the show. If you want to hear more, go check out the PHLY Eagles podcast. If you missed it while you were at work or doing some other things, picking up the kids, couldn't check in, talking and discussing Darius Slay, one of the cooler guys. When I met him a couple of years ago, I was introduced to him. He said, no, my name is Slay. All right, cool. You know, you try to be respectful and said, all right, cool. What's up, Slay?
What did you call him initially? Big Play or Darius?
Darius.
Okay.
Yeah, I said, what's up, Darius? Nice to meet you. He said, nope, Slay.
I feel a little weird calling another grown man Slay.
Yeah.
Without having like a real relationship.
That's what I'm saying.
So I would have been in the same boat with you on that one.
He was like, no, Slay, you know. So I was like, all right, cool. There it was. And we talked the rest of the day. It was all good. He's a really cool guy. So congratulations to him on
Congrats
a great career.
to him for sure.
All right, let's get ready to say goodbye, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 for the pregame coverage, Sixers and Nuggets. Before we say goodbye and everybody get ready for it, we hope no tornado stuff here in the area.
Stay safe, everybody.
It's the world famous. It's the roll call.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging out on a nice and light Monday afternoon show. Thank you to our super chatter today, of course, Mr. Sandman.
Bring me a dream.
Thank you, buddy, for hanging out. Thank you to Jesse Bond. Thank you to Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom? Thank you to Jay of the Jungle, Aaron, Jeffrey Stewart,
What up, Aaron?
John Peace, Joaquin,
Peace.
Arizona Ron, Smy Guy,
Smoggy.
Pete 34. Not the 33rd Pete, not the 32nd Pete. Pete 34.
It's a good number, Pete.
It's a strong number, Charles Barkley number.
Yes, indeed.
Love that. Thank you to Ray Need. Thank you to Vincent Bird. Thank you to Ramid. Thank you to Val, Jess, my girl Nona. Thank you to SB Cole. What are you debating?
He played in 32 once for Magic.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
I thought he. Okay.
Thank you to Brian Knight,
Be
Mr.
Knight.
Sandman, Table Manners, Freddie Powell, Headfa with a super chat, or not a super chat, with a mailbag question today. Dr. Blah
Thank you,
got in a
Headfa.
couple in the Discord. Thank you to Dr. Blah. Thank you to
Yes.
D Flyers, to Reardon, Marcus Blackstock, Theo, X-Men, Eugene Ross.
What up, Gene?
Did I say?
Theo.
You done messed up.
You done messed up.
Hey, Aaron. Thank you guys. Each and every one of you for being here. Please, on the way out, hit the thumbs up button for us to say thank you to super producer Bree, first and foremost, but also because it helps the channel, because it makes us feel good. It helps us all sleep at night. It helps the channel grow. It helps out all our wonderful friends and partners here at PHLY. And also hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. As Devon said, we'll be back 9:30 pregame, Sixers Nuggets. It's always a big one, even when it's not a big one. Late nights all week here for us at PHLY Sixers. Until next time, stay safe, take care of one another. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.